As Walt Disney famously said, at Disneyland, here you leave today and then wait in a bunch of lines. They put it on a plaque and everything. Lines are unavoidable at Disneyland, and some things are always worth the wait. Haunted Mansion, Pirates, the Churro Cart. But this video is all about the rides that definitely aren't worth the wait. Hi, I'm James from Guide to WDW, and earlier this year I put out a video all about the rides that I won't wait for at Disney World. And in the spirit of fairness, it's time to examine what waits aren't worth it on the West Coast. I've been to Disneyland a lot, both as a local pass holder for 15 years and more recently as a vacationer from across the country. Compared to Disney World, many of the lines at Disneyland are actually worse to wait in, because they're outdoor queues that were built in the 1950s before we had the advanced science to tell us that waiting in the sun for an hour doesn't feel good. In this video, I'm picking 12 rides that aren't worth the wait, 6 from Disneyland and 6 from California Adventure. And these aren't all bad rides. In fact, there are some really good and really popular ones in this video. But I'm picking rides that either have ridiculously long lines, ridiculously boring outdoor queues, or are so unpleasant and terrifying to ride that they are the source of a recurring nightmare for me. Any guesses as to what that one is? In other words, not worth the wait. Let's start at Disneyland, which is the happiest place on Earth, unless you find yourself in the line for number 6, Finding Nemo's Submarine Voyage. There's a lot to be said about how a wait feels. An hour in the Indiana Jones queue doesn't feel bad because journeying deep into the Temple of the Forbidden Eye feels like an adventure. Both Haunted Mansion and Rise of the Resistance break up their waits with pre-show elements so entertaining that they are essential parts of the attraction. Finding Nemo feels like an outdoor DMV for submarines. It doesn't have a terribly long wait at an average of 24 minutes last year, but the subs are so slow to load and unload, so the line moves at a glacial pace. Plus, while the ride is cute, I don't think it makes up for how bad the line is. As you'll see, boring outdoor queues are kind of a theme of this video. The next ride has one, but at least it makes up for it with some sick yodeling. Oh yeah. Number 5, Matterhorn Bobsleds. There are some really cool things about this historic roller coaster. The dual tracks, the splashdown, Harold, even the yodeling, I'm into it. But this one hurts. Literally. I've really wanted to love this ride over the years, but the bumpy, herky-jerky track just feels awful. If you've never been on the Matterhorn before, find your nearest set of stairs, get in a laundry basket, and have someone in a Yeti suit hit your L5 vertebrae with a hammer for 3 minutes straight. Okay, legal disclaimer, definitely don't do that. I'm exaggerating for humor. A little bit. But Matterhorn has one of the longest lines at Disneyland at 48 minutes. Luckily, there's Lightning Lane or Single Rider to help mitigate that. But at the end of the day, I'm 37. Why would I wait 48 minutes to make my whole body hurt when I can do it right now with no wait just by standing up from my chair slightly too fast? Oh no! Even if my body feels old, certain rides at Disneyland can make me feel like a kid again, at least in spirit. And this next ride is one of my favorite rides for kids and families at Disney World. So why is it not worth the wait at Disneyland? It really is the case of something being way better at Disney World. But Disneyland fans, before you write that angry comment, hit the subscribe button instead because I have some data coming up that should make you pretty happy. So what ride has me spoiled at Disney World and skipping it at Disneyland? Number 4, Dumbo. Once again, this ride has a boring outdoor queue that moves really slowly. At Magic Kingdom and Disney World, Dumbo has double the capacity with 2 spinners and an indoor playground with air conditioning. At Disneyland, there's shade. Sometimes. And with a 28-minute line on average, it's just an unpleasant wait. So I only go on it when it's basically a 10-minute wait or less. But Disneyland fans, you shouldn't feel too bad because so many of your rides have much shorter lines compared to the Disney World versions. Jungle Cruise, Peter Pan's Flight, Haunted Mansion, Millennium Falcon. Let's put it this way. Last year, Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland had about the same average wait as Na'vi River Journey at Animal Kingdom. Ouch. Let me know if you'd like a video with more comparisons between Disney World and Disneyland. Let's get back to the rides that aren't worth the wait. Number 3, Chip 'n Dale's Gadget Coaster. Now, I have to admit this ride plays an important role, as it's designed to be an approachable first coaster for really little kids. But it has a long wait and a boring outdoor queue for a tiny payoff. There's just one lift hill, one rollout, and the whole ride lasts a whopping 44 seconds. Last year, the average wait time to go on this coaster was 33 minutes, and this ride can get slammed, with the line getting easily over an hour. Now, I got some surprisingly aggressive pushback from viewers who took issue with me saying that some rides for kids aren't worth the wait. If you remove the colorful language, I think they were trying to say, well, of course you as an adult don't think it's worth the wait because it's not for you, it's for kids, and it's worth it for them. You understand how a long line for a ride for kids is actually worse, right? Kids famously hate waiting. I have 2 kids, and they are so many wonderful things, but patient they are not. Which is why I think the playground in the Disney World Dumbo line is brilliant, and why Gadget Coaster is on this list. It's not that I hate rides for kids, it's just that I understand what it's like to wait in a long line with kids. Moving on, the number 2 ride not worth the wait at Disneyland has been a bit of an annoyance for Disney fans for years, and it's all about location, location, location. Number 2, Astro Orbiter. Almost everything I said about Dumbo applies here. Boring outdoor queue, plus it's really awkwardly placed in the worst traffic area of the park. This needs to be moved back to its original location, when it was called Rocket Jets, which is on top of this platform further back in Tomorrowland. Being really high up is a crucial part of the Astro Orbiter experience. You're reaching into the stratosphere. When Disney moved it to ground level, they also removed what makes this ride special. Its average wait isn't terrible at 25 minutes, but several times last year, it had a wait over 70 minutes. It's really not worth the wait. But the number 1 ride at Disneyland Park is one that surprised me, because it's the first ride so far without a boring outdoor queue. Don't do it. But in my opinion, it's a very mid ride with a very, very long line. Number 1, Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. Like I said, I've been to Disneyland more times than I can count, but I can count the number of times I've been on this ride, which is twice. And it's not because I hate the ride, I just almost never think about it. I forget that it exists. If that's not the definition of a ride that I won't wait for at Disneyland, I don't know what is. Now, part of it is that I don't like spinning rides. And yes, you're in control of the spinning, so you don't have to spin, but that really removes what makes this ride unique. But mainly, this just has a ridiculously long wait, at an average of 50 minutes last year. That was the 6th longest wait at Disneyland, longer than Millennium Falcon, Big Thunder, regular Haunted Mansion, and Pirates. For a ride that I find kind of forgettable, yeah, that's not worth it. Now, if you love this ride, let me know why. I legitimately want to understand. Oh, look at the time. We can park hop now. Let's stroll across the Esplanade to California Adventure, because there are 6 rides here that aren't worth the wait, including 2 huge rides that I may regret putting on this list. But I don't regret including Goofy's Sky School, which is a fun, off-the-shelf Wild Mouse coaster that makes you feel like you could fall off at any of the hairpin turns. While boring outdoor queues are a little less of a problem at DCA, this ride does have one, and it has a longer average wait than Incredicoaster, which is just a much better ride. This one is lightning lane or bust for me. Now we come to the portion of our program where James includes an attraction with a really short wait just to make a point. I did it with the Disney Pixar Short Film Festival at Epcot, and I'm doing it now with Mickey's PhilharMagic. Okay, this show only has an 8-minute wait. What gives? While PhilharMagic at Magic Kingdom is great and was one of my picks for the best short wait attractions there, it just stinks at California Adventure. And it boils down to the theater. The PhilharMagic movie was designed for a super wide screen, which looks great in Orlando. In Anaheim, this was crammed into the old Muppet Vision Theater, and the film just looks bad here. Also, I'm kinda bitter that they got rid of Muppets. Skip it, it's not even worth a walk-on for the air-conditioned break. Instead, go to the animation building across the street. Now, this next pick is one that I went back and forth about including because it's one of my favorite rides at both parks. And I might catch some heat about it, but Radiator Springs Racers isn't worth the wait if you're waiting in the standby line. Including this ride boils down to 2 things. Radiator Springs Racers has the longest line in all of Disneyland and California Adventure. Slow down! You're not racing yet, because on average you'll have to wait 81 minutes for this ride. And if you do have to wait, it will be in what is my least favorite line of a big e-ticket ride. How do I put it? It's a boring outdoor queue. A big one, but a boring one nonetheless. I love this ride. It's incredible, and I've been on it so many times. But I would always do single rider or fast pass, which was definitely worth the wait. I've only been in the standby line maybe twice, which feels like it perfectly fits the definition for a ride that I won't wait for. Now, this wouldn't be a big issue if this was a few years ago when FastPass was free, or even when MaxPass was just a very reasonable upgrade. But with Lightning Lane, you have to either pay to avoid this long line or do single rider. I'd recommend single rider for most people, but if you have a 5-year-old who loves cars or can't split up your party for another reason, that's not really an option. This is definitely a situation where my history as a park regular has spoiled me. Part of the reason I wouldn't wait in a long line for this ride is because I've done it a bunch of times. If you're going to Disneyland for the first time, this is a must ride. Do not skip it. Just use a strategy to go on it with a short line, like rope drop or hold your nose and pay for Lightning Lane. This ride is amazing. It's just that the line situation stinks. But I definitely wait in the longest line for Radiator Springs Racers before I got in line again for number 3, Pixar Pal Around. This one has everything. A slow-moving, boring outdoor queue for a carnival ride that makes you feel like you're going to die. And I'm not even talking about the swinging car version yet. This is my least favorite ride in all of Disneyland, mainly because it terrifies me. You go really high up and it just feels precarious. And even the non-swinging cars swing a little bit, but it might not scare you. Years ago, I took my 4-year-old niece to Disneyland and she begged to go on the ride. So reluctantly, I took her on it. And I was white-knuckling it, just sweating, so scared. And then we finally get off the ride and she says, "That was so boring. It wasn't even a wide." And in that moment, my world was completely destroyed by a 4-year-old girl. Which kind of describes the plot of Monsters, Inc., which, funnily enough, is our next ride. I think this ride is fine, with a capital F. Imagineering did a commendable job salvaging the hot mess that was Superstar Limo and turning it into a cute book report ride about Monsters, Inc. It's the kind of ride that I'll happily go on if the wait is 15 minutes, but the problem is that it actually has a long line. Like, really long. Like, average wait time at 41 minutes long. That's the 6th longest at California Adventure. I see a lot of people blaming Lightning Lane for this, and I think there's some truth to that. But I've also heard similar complaints about the Little Mermaid ride since that got added to Genie Plus. And so far for Little Mermaid, there hasn't really been a massive difference in the reported wait time. But things are still early there, so we'll see. But my number one ride that I won't wait for at California Adventure would also be my overall pick for all the rides at Disneyland Resort, because it's just missing a scoop of something special. Number 1, Web Slingers, a Spider-Man adventure. When rides are based on existing IP, there needs to be an element of wish fulfillment for the ride to be successful. Like going into the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, soaring above Neverland with Peter Pan, and buckling your seatbelt with Patrick Warburton. When I think about Spider-Man, I think about swinging through New York and the Rogues Gallery of Villains, 2 things that are absent from Web Slingers. Instead, guests flail their arms around to shoot webs like bullets, just like Spider-Man. You remember that famous scene in No Way Home where Tom Holland rapidly flicks his arm at Doc Ock until he pulls a tricep? I mean, I guess that Spider-Man sometimes shoots his webs like bullets here and there, but that's kind of like making a Captain America ride that mainly has guests putting on a nondescript baseball hat to blend in with the crowd. I mean, yeah, I guess he did do that in the movie once, but it doesn't feel like an iconic part of his character. Nerdy gripe aside, this is another capital F fine ride. I like it whenever I go on it, and it does my new favorite trick of putting you in a fake version of the rest of the theme park land. I just think it's neat that you go into the Ant-Man restaurant and the Guardians ride on this ride. And once you get over how ridiculous you look, shooting webs is fun and works better than expected. But as a Spider-Man ride, yeah, this isn't it. It's disappointing that Disneyland's first original Spider-Man ride is just okay, considering that when Universal had a crack at it in 2001, they made an all-time great ride. So Web Slingers is definitely not worth the average 49-minute wait. I think this ride would benefit from some more physical props and encounters with iconic villains rather than generic spider bots. But what do you think? Are there any other rides that you would add to this list? Was I being unfair to your favorite ride? Let me know. And be sure to check out this next video here for some more Disney fun. This has been James from Guide to WDW. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you real soon.